Hello, everyone. March 15th, 2011. Dear all, around 25 of us went to Gyöngyöspata last night. This is the town 60 kilometers from Budapest and of about 2,800 people that was recently taken over by so-called local security forces, extremists, who have been threatening, harassing, following around the local Roma community, around 450 people who live on the edge of the town. We were there until around 3 a.m., talking to people. The police is there, but not doing much. They hardly enter the Roma part of town where the extremists are marching, sometimes in the middle of the night, shouting at people, going through windows with flashlights, holding weapons like axes. The extremists follow the Roma everywhere they go, to the store, to the doctor, to the school, the kindergarten, everywhere, constantly harassing them. Many take out their penis in the middle of the street to scare the kids. Police is standing by. The school is segregated. 2/3 of the students are Roma, and they have to study on a separate floor. Kids are afraid to go to school. Some haven't been for 2 weeks now. Due to their absence, their state can withdraw their family aid. Parents told us teachers are also threatening the kids, saying things like, "We'll kill you, we'll call the Garda if you don't behave." They also said the Garda gets entry to the school and the kindergarten, which is when parents run there to take their kids. So most of them don't take them anymore. The kids can hardly sleep. Many of them pee themselves. Kids are running home after the extremists are chasing them, crying, peeing their pants, and refusing to leave the house again. The whole community is terrorized. To cut it short, it seems like the only thing we can do is to go and spend the nights there. Looks like the police is willing to protect us, which is ridiculous. It takes 20 non-Roma for the extremists to disappear and the police to act. Ridiculous as it is, this is our only tool right now. So we're going back in groups. Come and show support. Hi, everyone. My name is Dorottya Karsay, and I'm a grassroots activist in Budapest, Hungary. I'm active in a number of groups. Last year I was active in one of Hungary's new pro-democracy movements called the 1 Million for Freedom of Press in Hungary Facebook group. I'm also one of the spokespersons of Budapest Pride, and I'm active in other grassroots feminist and queer organizing groups, and also anti-racist initiatives. This is a letter which appeared on a blog that started last year when the events took place in Gyöngyöspata. And it's a great example of how grassroots organizing is working in Hungary, and this is what I'm going to try to speak about today very briefly. I will speak about some examples of very innovative grassroots movements in Hungary that use online media, campaigning through social media, music, video advocacy, and blogs. And I'll try to do this through concrete examples of the 1 Million for Freedom of Press Facebook group, Budapest Pride, and also informal activist groups in Gyöngyöspata last year. I will show you blogs, videos, and songs. And I will talk about the advantages of these new techniques and also the challenges. And I'm going to try to very briefly put this in a broader context of what's going on in Hungary. And before I start, I'd like to point out that this will give you a very limited view of all the activist efforts that are going on in Hungary right now, and that use very innovative and very radical tools such as sit-ins, human chains, occupations, mass protests, flash mobs, etc. So I can in no way do justice to all of them. Last 2 years, Hungary. Last years have seen a serious backlash in Hungary with regards to democracy, rule of law, and human rights, as I'm sure most of you know and heard about it in the news. So we've had a conservative Fidesz government in the last 2 years who gained 2/3 of parliamentary seats at the 2010 elections, basically making it possible for every law and amendment to be passed, and making it possible for them to have control over basically every sphere, including laws, constitution, economy, human rights safeguards, the judicial system, culture, media, etc. Minorities have also been very badly affected and further marginalized, especially including Roma people, who are the largest minority in Hungary, and also LGBTQ people, so lesbian, gay, bisexual, trans, and queer people. In the last 2 years, there is an agreement between human rights groups and activists that probably the best thing that comes out of all of this is that we have never seen so many protests and so much activism coming from all over the country. So new groups have been formed, existing ones have grown, and we've gained a lot more support and visibility than before. And state response varies. There have been attempts to shut down demonstrations, to silence messages. News on public media are very much distorted, and scapegoating of activists is very effectively working. For what goal? I guess for intimidation, and I also, so for intimidation, and one of the messages used by the state is that activists who are working on these issues are doing it are harming the reputation of Hungary, which is a very dangerous message. To add to the context, in the meanwhile, rising extremism is very scary in Hungary. We do have an extremist party in parliament. They're the second most supported party right now. We have about 20 hate groups scattered around the country. And a couple of weeks ago, we had amendments proposed by this extremist party, such as the St. Petersburg laws that were recently adopted in St. Petersburg, basically trying to ban homosexuality and anything that betrays LGBTQ people as being okay. So I'm going to talk about online advocacy and organizing used by these groups. And the first group I'm going to talk about is the 1 Million for Freedom of Press in Hungary Facebook group, which was launched in December 2010 by one single activist. And it followed a demonstration as a reaction to the media law changes in Hungary. The Facebook group got over 70,000 supporters on Facebook within a week. Right now it has about 100,000 supporters. And the group is very informal. It's non-hierarchical, it's not institutionalized, fluctuation is great. So basically it's a group of autonomous and independent activists who happen to work together on certain issues, but there are absolutely no set boundaries for the group, which is what makes it really unique. Expectations were really high towards the group last year. Everyone was expecting them to form a new political party, as around 60% of Hungarians have no one to vote for. So if you ask them, they would say, I don't know who I would vote if the elections were next Sunday, which is a very scary number, and it's a huge group of people with no alternatives left. So there was a lot of pressure that this group should become a political party, but it never will. The aims of the group are to strengthen civil society, to encourage people to speak out and to be active and form groups, join groups, protest. It also provides a platform for all these civil initiatives to be more visible. And it wants to contribute to generating a process of forming a new political elite in Hungary. Not by becoming a new party, but by encouraging people and facilitating the process and providing visibility and publicity to active people. Last year, on the 23rd of October, we've had the largest demonstration since the political changes, around 100,000 people. And leading up to the demonstration, we wrote a song. To encourage people to come, to tell them it's okay to put your face to a cause. And if you don't agree or if you don't like something, then you should do something. The slogan of the protest was, I don't like the system, because by then we realized that all the different amendments, changes, and laws that the Fidesz government has put in place made up a system, and we wanted to fight this system. It's also it's also about the disillusionment of the whole political elite. So not only the current government, but the political elite in general, which led to the 60% of people not having an alternative. So I'm going to play you this song, which now has over 800,000 views on YouTube. For a week around the protest, it was one of the most viewed and liked and commented video on YouTube, beating Rihanna, Justin Bieber, and Beyonce, so yay. And yeah, so enjoy. I hope the sound will work. And that the internet works.
Nem tetszik, hogy egyre szarabul érzem magamat a hazámban. Nem tetszik, hogy a haverok, a rokonok nem sokára diszidálnak. Nem tetszik, hogy senki sem egész. Nem tetszik, hogy mindenki fél. Nem tetszik, hogy a szegények fizetnek meg mindenért. Nem tetszik, de nagyon nem. Gyullazás, elkult levél. Nem tetszik, hogy a diplomám egyre inkább szart sem ér. Nem tetszik, hogy minden hétnap szomorú, nem csak a vasárnap. Nem tetszik, hogy a nevemben hülyeségek csinálnak.
Okay, so this should give you an idea. So why did this song become so popular? I think it's because it's an entirely new form of activism. It's an entirely new form of using your talents and your voice to talk about something that you believe in and to fight against something that you dislike. It traveled very fast in online space, which was greatly facilitated by Facebook being the platform for the movement. And it has been called a song of democracy, and it spurred extensive debates about the lyrics, the goals, the limits, the restrictions of the song, and whether this is a good form of activism. And I think this is exactly the goal we had, to get people to talk about what they can do and how, and to encourage them to find forms of activism and forms of action that they feel good about and that they feel great to participate in. So other actions that the group did include an alternative presidential election campaign. And as you saw in the video, there were a lot of people who said, I don't like the system. And the way we did this was that we put out a call. So people sent in their videos saying, I don't like the system. The purpose was to get people involved and make them active. And this is also what we did with the alternative presidential election campaign. we encouraged everyone to nominate and to be nominated. So the group got around 40 nominations, and the campaign was going on for weeks. So you had to enter by submitting a video and telling people what you would do as a president. And we had such a great variety of videos: professors, old, young, women, men, homeless people, students, pop stars, directors of theaters. It was a great mix. And yeah, the purpose was to provide an alternative, to say, yes, I can be sick of the system, but I can also change it, and I can be a tool for that change. So the campaign ended, and we do have a winner now, so everyone is hopeful about what the winner is going to do. I mean, alternative is a very great concept, because it can be an alternative to being a president. It can also be an alternative to the current president. We actually have a new one, because the previous one resigned after plagiarizing 180 pages of his PhD dissertation. So yeah, we did need an alternative. Anyway, so I think this is also a great form of online activism and using online media to get people active. About blogging and videos, there was an informal network of activists that organized extensively in the town of Gyöngyöspata that I read the story about in the beginning of this presentation. Basically what happened, a group of extremists went to the town, and there was also a Jobbik protest, police not really doing much. This went on for weeks, and that's when activists started going, and it took the police weeks, long weeks, to actually act, to actually effectively protect the Roma community. And there was a peak in the story which included Easter weekend, when one of the paramilitary extremist groups organized a military training right next to the Roma part of the town. So a lot of us organized activists who came from everywhere. It was incredible to see so many people you don't know, so many people you don't have context to, but so many people being active and saying stop and no more. Women and children were taken away by buses a few days before the training, or that day, I don't remember, but before the training started, and there was a huge scandal in international media about this. And basically following these months, there was a parliamentary committee set up to investigate what happened and to investigate how word got out to international media, which I find ridiculous. As a human rights expert and activist, I think it's outrageous that the goal of the investigation was more to map who's responsible for bringing shame to Hungary by sharing the story, more than figuring out who's responsible and what really happened there. So the report, which is now final, goes into great detail about particular activists and parties and groups that were agents and that wanted to bring a bad reputation to Hungary, without looking at the core reasons and without analyzing the responsibility of the state. So the group, and I have to say, I'm just talking about this informal group, which had a blog called gyöngyöspataszolidarity.wordpress.org. But there were great many groups that were active for weeks. So I'm only going to talk about this. But okay. So Gyöngyöspata Solidarity, I'm sorry, I didn't save the bookmark. The idea of the blog was exactly why we were called the bad guys, to get the word out, to spread the message and to make sure that the news do not get stuck in Hungary. Because, let's be honest, who the hell speaks Hungarian outside Hungary, except for the few people who are Hungarians and living outside. So it's very difficult to get the word out. So the idea of the blog was this, to translate articles which appeared in Hungarian and also to write personal stories. So we got a lot of stories from activists who went to the town. We also organized actions in another town called Helyőszalonta, where a woman was murdered by a Roma man, and there was a Jobbik protest put on to fight gypsy crime and gypsy terror. And basically the Roma population had to be evacuated from their own houses. They had to leave the part of town where they lived, and we had to stand with them behind a fence, basically being cut off from extremists who were allowed to march between the houses of the Roma. It was incredible. If you Google vimeo.com and Gyöngyöspata, you will find the user GYPATA. We also have a video about what happened in Helyőszalonta, and we recorded the protest. We recorded the hundreds of Roma people and activists and other people who were concerned that came to the town, and how we protested, and how the children spoke about the event, which was extremely scary, completely being aware of the danger and completely being aware of the fact that these people would want to kill them, and they would happy to do so anytime. So this is also an example of different tools, so blogging and also videos to get the word out there. The third group that I want to talk about is Budapest Pride. Last year, Budapest Pride was registered Budapest Pride 2011 was registered the previous September, and the police gave a permission without a problem. Then the route was extended, and the police refused to give a permit. So we had to take it to court, we won, and Budapest Pride was on. This year, the exact same thing happened. We registered the Pride March, and the police refused to give a permit. They went into details in 13 pages about how we're disrupting traffic, and how, for instance, using buses instead of trolley buses is bad for the environment, so Pride March should not take place. So as a response, we made a video, and we decided that we're not going to do we poor LGBT people are so discriminated and marginalized and don't know what to do, but we decided to be fierce and fabulous, so here it comes.
Én ott leszek a Pride-on. Nem tilthattok be, ott leszek a Pride-on.
Büszke vagyok, ott leszek a Pride-on.
Nem hallgattathatok el. Ott leszek a Pride-on.
Kint leszek Pride-on.
Nem tilthattok be.
Nem tilthattok be. Találkozzunk.
Nem megyek sehova, a Pride-on is ott leszek.
Ott leszek a Pride-on. Nem tilthattok be.
Kimegyek a Pride-ra.
Nem megyek sehova. Nem tilthattok be.
Ott leszek a Pride-on.
Én kimegyek a Pride-ra, azt tudni.
Nem tiltatok be. Én is ott leszek a Pride-on.
Yay, so, thank you. So come, July 7th, Budapest. We do need a lot of support and solidarity, and we've received quite some in the last couple of years from activists from all over the region, which is really great. Yeah, so after the court ruled that we can march, the march is on again. But at the same time, as I mentioned before, Jobbik, the extremist party, submitted amendments to parliament to ban homosexuality, to also basically ban Pride March. Same-sex people who are holding hands or kissing in public can be fined for up to 150,000 forints, which is a lot of money. It's crazy. So my reaction was both what, and it was laughing, I mean, it's ridiculous. But this is the context. This is the context that we live in, and it's a tough one. So to sum up, I think the advantages of these new techniques are, one, they're new, they're cool, and they draw attention. And this is relatively easy to do now in Hungary because these techniques are pretty new. But for instance, the 1 Million group has been using video support messages of relatively famous people in support of protests, and it has become kind of boring after a while. So I think there's definitely this danger that it's a new tool now, but it will become quite dull. And in Hungary it's new, but around us not so much. But we're using it, and I think it works really well. I think it's good. It's interesting for people that it's finally not a boring manifesto, it's not a protest, it's not a meeting, but it's some exciting form of activism. Music and videos and personal stories appearing on blogs involve people emotionally a lot more. So you feel more attached, and it's also like, and I hate to say this, but it has become like selling a product, I mean, the package is great, it's cool music, it's great faces, smiling people, positive sentences and messages, so you basically buy the cause. It's pretty easy to digest and consume, and you identify with it easier. It spreads really fast because of Facebook and the internet. It's also really great that people can put faces to causes, and it encourages others to stand up and voice their points. And the challenges are basically the pairs of the advantages. So, as I said, it's cool and new, but it can get boring. It spreads really fast on Facebook and the internet, but that also means that it only reaches a limited number of people. So those that do have internet access and/or Facebook. It puts faces to causes, but it restricts that. So people start to identify causes with one or two faces, which is not very good. It provides publicity to people who are active, but it also puts them in potential danger. So oftentimes when we ask people to participate in these videos, the answer is very often, I'm sorry I can't, I'm afraid, or I'm sorry I can't, I might be fired from my job. So that's a difficult one. And people are often afraid to talk. So I think these are the main advantages and challenges. And I do believe that to continue to build a strong civil society and to encourage people, we must not stop. And especially in this current context and everything that is happening in Hungary right now, it's essential that we push these actions and groups and messages forward. I do not want my parents' life. I do not want to live in fear like they did under communism, and I also do not want my grandparents' life, and I don't want to feel like I'm in the 30s or the 40s, which I very often feel in Hungary now, and I'm not the only one. So people must eventually learn how to be active, make their voices heard, and say stop, no more. And yeah, it might mean that you expose yourself if necessary, and I know that that's dangerous and scary, but I think we cannot make history repeat itself. And not only those of us in Hungary have a responsibility and task, but you you also do have one, to share these stories, to spread the message, because you also have the opportunity to speak out and draw attention, and I think that's the only way. Thank you.